What is up, y'all? My name is Jake. In this video, I'm going to go over my faith journey and how God and faith has transformed my life and my physique for the better. And I just want to preface this by saying that I'm not here to convince you to join Christianity or to point you toward any religion whatsoever. I simply want to share my story because it is such a big part of my success, and it's one of the only things that I didn't have in my transformation that I wish I had sooner, that I've incorporated recently into my life, and it's changed so many different areas of my life. I just have to share it with you guys. So stick around, like the video. Let's get into it. First thing, when I grew up in the Christian church. It was just early as I can remember. Every Sunday we would go to church. Had a lot of family there, and it was a fun place to be as a kid because you don't really think too deeply about it. You hear stories about Noah's Ark and God and Jesus. Jesus loves you, and sing these songs, and then it just became more of like same thing as going to school for a kid. It was like, oh yeah, every Sunday we just go to church, right? And we would pray before every meal. My parents were really good about that. And eventually it slowly started to fade. And I remember I started to have a few questions when I was younger about, I remember asking my mom, like, well, what if I lie? Because she always told me, like, don't lie, because that's sin. And I was like, well, am I going to go to hell if I lie too much? Like, is there a certain amount of lies I do that I'll go to hell? And my mom, she probably didn't know exactly what to tell me. She went to church, but she wasn't like the most informed on that kind of stuff. And she was just like, no, well, you're a child. You can't fully comprehend everything, so it's not okay. You shouldn't actively try to lie, but as long as you're doing better, it's okay. And that kind of confused me too. And I remember I tried a few prayers as a kid to ask for help whenever I needed it. If I needed help on a certain topic or subject, I tried very sparsely. I remember going on the corner of my bed and putting my hands together and praying, being like 9 or 8 years old, and praying to God. And I just felt like I didn't hear anything. And I was like, well, am I supposed to hear like a voice talk to me? Or I didn't understand how to receive prayer either. And I was like, I'm like, is this really real? And then I kind of fell into the wrong crowd because I didn't really quite fit in with the popular group of everyone, or I felt like I didn't in school and in eventually church too. So I started hanging out with this group, but more like 2 to 3 guys. Specifically, started hanging out with this one guy who was that kind of kid where like, not that he's a cool kid that ditches, because there's kids that ditch stuff and like the actual cool kids, but this guy was just like honestly not. I even knew back then he was a bit of a loser because it was just me and him. But I felt like if I was with him, I had some sort of friend, even if it was toxic and negative. And we would like, I remember we went to church camp for one of the summers, and it would have been a great time. I did something to them before, but this time he was going, and I went with him, and they were out playing some games or whatever. And he was like, "Oh no, let's just stay back in the cabin and just relax." And we just kind of like looked outside, and I remember watching all the kids play the games and stuff, and him talking to me and being like, yeah, this is so dumb. I can't believe everyone does this. Oh my gosh, they're such kids, they're such babies. While we were like in third grade, so like 10 or something. Literal children. But kind of getting aside from the point, my point was though, even though I was raised in the church, I didn't guarantee that I had faith whatsoever. If anything, it kind of pushed me away more because it just was kind of seen by me as more of a thing that's like, oh, I'm supposed to go to church. It's kind of like a chore, like school is. I just have to go and get it done no matter what. And eventually, as I grew older, that kind of just led me to stop believing completely because I was like, well, I'm not getting anything out of this. I don't really care about church too much. And then the high school service was at a different time that my family liked to go, so they were like, oh, well, you can go on your own if you want, if you have a friend to drive you. But like, I didn't care about God, and I didn't have a friend to drive me, so I was like, no, I'm just not gonna go because I don't really care. If I don't have to go, it's awesome, right? And it really wasn't, but it led me to the next step and everything. So, as I mentioned before, I really struggled with loneliness growing up, and it's so weird because I'm confident and I like talking and having conversations, especially now. But even as a kid, I like talking and being talkative. But back then, I felt like I didn't have as many friends as I felt like I should, and I felt separated and different from everyone else for some certain reasons. Even though I look back on it and I could have done a lot more, had a lot more friendships, but I felt like I didn't have enough, right? So I would often turn to food for comfort. I was really talking to my mom the other day, and she was saying like, didn't matter what I made for dinner. I could make the nicest steak and pasta, or I could just make Kraft mac and cheese, and you would eat all of it and have seconds, sometimes even thirds. And I would just always come back to food because I just enjoyed it. I was like, this is a comfortable thing. It tastes good. I enjoy it as well. And my parents were also, well, they're a little overweight. And I'm not going to say over, they're overweight. And seeing that as a kid just kind of, I guess, implemented it in me because when I'm around the foods that they're eating as well, and of course, if some other people are eating enough food to put them in a calorie surplus and the child's there, they're going to keep eating the same foods. Obviously, the child's not going to be like, well, I want to eat healthier. Like, it's not really going to happen. And then another thing too is like I just saw them living like that, and I was like, okay. And I grew up in America, obviously, so like everyone else here is, it's normal to see adults that are oversized or have a ginormous belly or are out of shape and can barely walk or out of breath if they had to climb a set of stairs. You know, it's normal to see, so I didn't really think much about it. Plus, when you're a kid, you don't really care. Another thing too is like I had a tendency to like overindulge in sex, more important, like female attention from a young age. I remember being in kindergarten and I wanted to have lots of girlfriends. I don't know why. I wanted to have, I think in kindergarten I technically had like 3 girlfriends, which is weird. Like, it obviously didn't mean anything back then, but like I just obsessed over that, the fact of that. And I remember like I even had like my first kiss when I was 5 years old at my 5th birthday party. I took this girl. We were friends. We walked into my bathroom, locked the door, put books up against the door because we thought it was illegal for kids to kiss. But we saw it in movies and stuff. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. And we just like pecked really quickly. And it seems innocent and funny now, but like looking back at it, it's like, why did I feel like I needed that? Why did I feel like I needed that attention? Was it that I felt like I didn't fit in, or like I didn't like it with like all the male guys and the jocks and playing football and being in shape? Because like that's another thing too is I wasn't very athletic at all. My dad played baseball a lot as a kid growing up. Would try to get me to do that. We tried football and stuff, and I didn't like it. I was like, it's just uncomfortable. I don't like the pain and the feeling, and I just was sort of classified by other people, and then eventually by myself as being unathletic or not in shape. And that was kind of an identity that I didn't really voluntarily choose, but eventually just kind of defaulted to it, especially in elementary school and going up. And the same thing happened. Literally every single year, I was like, okay, I want to have a girlfriend. I want to have some girlfriends. And it was so weird. I remember being in 4th grade in PE class, and excuse me, holding this girl's hand and walking in the line. And my PE teacher, me and him were close, or like relatively pretty friendly compared to other kids. And he looked at me. He's like, Jake, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like really like disappointed. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, why? Isn't it cool to like have a girlfriend and have a girl? So even back then, I was chasing female validation a lot, which is very alarming. And as I grew into high school, I again surrounded myself with those types of bad kids where they were like just the delinquents that just like to skip stuff. And once again, I actually found myself going to a church group on Wednesdays, and not because I wanted to go to church. I did it because I had friends that went, and they would often skip and go vape and smoke weed and do all that kind of stuff in the neighborhood nearby. And I would join them, and I think I attended one of those church services, and the rest I went and told my parents, oh, I'm going to the church thing, going to the church thing. Like, oh, that's so good. I'm glad you're going to the church thing. I'm like, yeah. Meanwhile, there we're meeting. I was trying to kiss like one of his friends who was a girl, and trying to like not really date her or get with her or anything, but just have female interaction, and like we would smoke weed too, and that was another bad thing that started to creep up on me. And then by the time it was like my senior year of high school, I got out of a long-term relationship where she was very clear on like, okay, let's not indulge in drinking or smoking or anything like that. I was like, okay, yeah, I agree with that. And she actually started to turn to Christ at the tail end of our relationship. Not that that's what pushed me away, but she was reading her Bible more, talking about devotions and prayer and a lot more things like that. And I was just kind of like thinking in my head, like, is that real? Like in my head, I was like, because now I'm older. Now I'm about 16, 17 years old now at this point. And I'm thinking, I'm like, what is the meaning of life? Like, I want to look into this. What is the real purpose? Like, is there an actual creator? And I slowly started to think, I have a very logical way of thinking most of the times. And this led me to think it probably is just black when you die. It's probably just nothing. That's what I assumed. Like, it makes sense, right? From like scientific standpoint, logic standpoint, it makes sense. There's really nothing. Like, I don't remember before I was born, so I probably just, not even black, like I won't even remember anything after I'm dead. You know what I mean? And I was like, that just makes sense. But then I started to go into that pipeline and that rabbit hole of, well, what's the meaning of life then? And it started to get me a little depressed at first. But then I have a very optimistic mindset, though, which is good, and I'm grateful for it. And I realized I was like, okay, well, like, life is what you make it. You know, like, if life is meaningless, you could do nothing, and that's your choice. But if you pursue greatness, you make your life whatever you want it to be. And I liked that answer for a while, and I continued that for a decent amount of time until eventually I just kept feeling like I was like, there has to be some sort of creator or spirituality or something. I just kept coming back to like, why do we feel right and wrong? Why is there certain things we do, like giving to people in need, buying a meal for a family on the sleeping on the streets? Like, why does that feel good, and why does it feel bad to lie, cheat, or steal, or go into a restaurant and like rob the place? Not that I did that, you know what I mean? But like, why is there any bad feelings behind that? If there really is no meaning behind this world, is it just like completely civilization and what we created? Because like no, it's an internal feeling of guilt and like you did something wrong, right? I was like, where is this coming from? There has to be some sort of spirituality. Like there's obviously some creator, because I looked around at the world and I'm like, this stuff isn't just science. It's not just big bang boom and everything is here. Like there's really complex things. Like look at a bird. Get as close as you can to a bird and look at it in the eyes and see how it moves. See how the texture of its beak, its eyes, how the eyes moves around, how all the feathers and all the follicles, and like even us as humans, we get so desensitized because we all look at humans all day. But if you were to look at yourself in the mirror or someone else just like as an animal almost, we have hair follicles specifically in our head, specifically in a line that goes here, here, and around. We have these like large ears. We have huge eyeballs for looking around. We have hair over our eyes too. We have fingers that can grab things and hold things, and like toes that can do the same. We can walk and stand on our two legs. You know what I mean? Just like if you really think about it, look at us and like every other animal on this earth, and like nature and like the beautiful scenes that this nature has created. And it's like I always knew like there had to be something or someone that made this. There's some sense of a higher power. And I turned to that, and eventually I would consider myself agnostic. I didn't really put a term on it back then, but looking at it now, it's kind of what I was, where I was like, there's something. I'm just going to pray. I would pray to like the creator, or I would say like infinite intelligence, whoever's up there. I would say that literally. I would literally pray and be like, whoever's up there. But because I almost felt an indecision of like, what is the right answer? Like, I don't want to get it wrong. Is it this religion? Is this religion? Is it the Muslim religion? Is it Buddha? Is it this? Is it Christianity? Is it Catholicism? Is it Jehovah's Witness? Like, I was so confused. I was like, and I was like, you know what? It's better just not to pick. I know there's something out there, but I'm just going to say it's just whoever the creator is, right? And the creator knows who the creator is. So I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of clean and clear that way, right? And I thought the church was not a bad thing. I didn't hate the church. I just thought it was, this is my mindset. I remember literally having conversations about this with friends. I was like, the church is good because it just promotes people to live a good life. It gives people with no purpose or meaning a thing of light, thing of hope, even if it is not real. It still gives people a purpose, and the overall message is good. Be a good person, treat others with respect, love thy neighbor, don't sin. I was like, that's, at the end of the day, I can respect that, even if it is not real, right? But eventually, see, I indulged so much in this stuff that I became aware of what was actually happening to me, and that I wasn't accepting God into my life, even though he wanted to be in there with all this stuff, all these conversations going in my head. I kept pushing it back. I kept pushing back the idea of God or Christ. And then what happened at the end of 2021, I was working at Taco Bell at the time. It was my first job. I was there for a while. And a crazy situation. My boss went out of town, and so she asked me and my coworker, who was my best friend at the time, he was 2 years older than me. I was 17. He was 19, to watch her dogs and stay the night at her house. And we were like, okay, we're in high school, and I was smoking weed almost every single day here. I remember if I went one day without weed, I was literally like surprised and kind of proud of myself. Like, how did I do that today? Like every single day, I would literally get crazy high because I loved that feeling, and I was just avoiding how my body looked, that my habits weren't the same as like what I wanted them to be, and I wasn't treating myself with respect, wasn't going to the gym quite enough as I knew I should have, because I already started going to the gym at this point, right? I already had a decent physique, but then I started to fade and drift away and lose it because I didn't have Christ in my life, and I knew how to get in good shape. I thought since I had some muscle on me, since I had an idea of eat more protein, eat less calories, I was completely fine. But the reality, I was gaining too much weight. I was eating horrible stuff, not feeling my body how I knew I should have, and not taking anything really seriously in my life. That's what mattered the most. Because you can have a good physique, but if you don't have fulfillment and purpose, it doesn't mean anything. And my physique slowly started to go away in this phase of time, because when I would smoke weed, I would just eat a ton of food and be like, oh, it's just the munchies, just the munchies. But it just pulled out the worst part of me that I was able to fix a few years ago. Before that, like I would say I really got into good shape for the first time, like 2020. I maintained that during that quarantine time, and coming out really allowed me to lock in really well, contrary to a lot of other people. But see, I slowly started to drift away because I didn't have purpose and meaning with it, and it got worse. So what happened that night, we stayed the night at her house. We went out, we got food. It was a huge deal. We kept hyping it up the whole entire week. It was me and him hanging out. We were best friends. We hung out very often. Went to his house. I brought this little like bubbler thing I had. We had some actual weed that I got from a friend. And then we had these like 2 carts or whatever, and they were like street carts, which was not good. So you don't know what that means. It means like not from a real dispensary. Like Joe Schmo made it in his garage, pretty much. Not safe. So we smoked a ton that night. I'm telling you, like blinker after blinker, like doing the pen until the battery says, okay, that's too much heat. Like that's too much smoke. Absolutely like killing it in the worst way possible to ourselves, getting crazy high. And it wasn't a good experience. Like it wasn't even that fun. Even in the moment I knew it, I was like, this is kind of boring. It's just us. We can play music and like I think we like painted or something because we were like, oh, artistic. Now I look back, it's like typical stoner shit. It's dumb. But we fell asleep eventually, right? And I remember waking up at about 4 a.m. We went to bed at like I think 10 or 11, decently early. And then I woke up at 4 a.m. and I felt deathly sick, like really, really, really badly sick. I was congested. My throat was like super swollen out of nowhere. I was completely fine before. I had a little bit of a cough before, but nothing too bad. It was just a slight cough. Remember, we went to the gas station like that night before. We were about to get the food, and I had a little cough, but it was completely fine. So I woke up. I could like barely breathe. I was like, what the heck is going on? I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, had to look up what to do in this situation because there was so much like just stuff in my throat and in my nose. It was so clogged. I looked up, I had to do warm saltwater goggles. So in my boss's house where she's out of town, I'm grabbing this cup, getting hot water, pouring salt in, and I had to do a few rounds. I had to do like 3 or 4 like gargles and spits to get everything out. And then eventually I felt, okay, I can finally breathe a little bit through my mouth and nose. Let me go back to sleep. I'd fall asleep for like an hour and wake up again. Same thing. I'm like, like choking on my own like breath or spit or something. It was scary. And I kept doing this a few times. And when he got up around like 7 or 8 a.m., I was like, dude, I feel horrible. And he's like, oh, you want to get some Chipotle? Maybe you're like just not feeling good after the crazy night we had. And I was like, no, like I don't feel good. Like I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, oh, really? What do you think it was? Blah, blah, blah. And he was fine. So I was like, okay, what is this? I was very confused. And the thing was, this ended up lasting a very long time, longer than I thought. This was a little bit after Thanksgiving. And this is probably the lowest point in my life that I've lived, is when I was this sick. Because I had so much congestion in my nose, it was impossible for me to breathe through my nose. I would be blowing my nose every like 5 minutes, and it would still be insanely full. I'm talking like dripping out no matter what after a few minutes. It was insane. And then eventually my throat became so swollen. I literally do this and like you could see my tonsils. They were like practically touching the entire time. And it went to a point eventually where when I had to swallow food, I had to really like I literally had to do that exact motion. It took so much effort to swallow food and drink water. So think about it. I'm getting more dehydrated, getting less food in my system, and eventually I couldn't even talk. I couldn't speak. My vocal cords could not get through my mouth because my throat was so swollen and I was in so much pain. It was horrible. And then eventually, when it was that bad, we went to the doctors, and I went from the I forget what it's called. There's like the base level one where it's like okay, like minor problems, and then I had to go to like the ER eventually, and we were waiting there for so long. Me and my mom, bless her heart, and I remember they gave me an IV and plugged it into my arm, and it's already been like 3 or 4 weeks since I've had this, and I was feeling so bad. I was also sleeping 30 minutes to maybe an hour and a half at a time. I had to sleep sitting upright, and what would happen, my nose was so congested, right? I would wake up choking, gasping for air, because my throat would get so closed, I was getting no air. I'd wake up like, like in a crazy breath, had to get some water, had to breathe. It was so scary, and I could only sleep for like 30 minutes to an hour until that would happen. So I was not getting any sleep, not getting any hydration. Went to the doctor's office, eventually went to the ER, got the actual like IV plugged into my arm for the first time ever, and I felt amazing. Going from being so low, feeling so drained, having no drive to do anything. I could barely eat. I was barely drinking any water because it was so painful to do that. I was just in so much pain. My body ached so badly. I remember I had an humidifier in here to try to make that air better. I was drinking so much Pedialyte over and over because that helped me feel a little bit okay. When I got that IV in me, I felt alive again. I literally had the energy to like stand up and like I could talk. I felt good. And after a few hours of waiting in that damn hospital, I'm telling you, like 4 or 5 hours, so long for no reason, we eventually get to the doctor and I explain everything, show him everything, and he talks to me and you know what he says? We don't know what it is. Might just be the flu. And I'm like, there's no way this is just a flu or the cold. He says something like that, one of the common things. I was like, there's no way. This is horrendous. This is worse than anything I've ever had in my entire life. I had lymph nodes, I think, on my neck that were so swollen. There was like a golf ball size here, golf ball size here, golf ball size here. It was horrible. It was one of the most lowest parts of my life. And I'm like, there's no way. What do you mean you don't know what it is? You're a doctor. Like, you're a medical professional. What do you mean? And they're like, there's nothing. And more importantly, I just wanted some sort of medicine to make me feel better, somewhat, even a little bit, slightly, and get over this. They said, there's nothing we can give you. Keep taking Tylenol and Advil. And I was taking Tylenol and Advil already because I was in so much pain. I just needed it all the time. And I was just like frustrated. I remember going home and I was like, what is this? What is happening? And then I thought about it. I was like, am I being punished for my bad deeds and bad actions? Another thing, actually, I forgot to mention, around this time, I was just seeing a bunch of girls because I got out of that long term relationship. And I was seeing about 3 girls around that time. Not like every week, but like every week or every 2 weeks. And they didn't know about each other. I wasn't dating anybody. Like, I wouldn't like cheat on anybody, but like, it was just like, I was just dating around, like seeing girls going out. And I think that kind of affected things too. And I was like, am I getting what I deserve from some sort of higher power? Is this meant to happen to me? Is this a outcome of my own inputs? Like, am I responsible for this? And it was a very dark time. And then even when I finally got better, guess what I immediately went back to? Instead of turning to God, which I felt like I had a duty to do, like the thought crossed my mind a few times, I went back to smoking weed. I went to a New Year's party later that year with that exact same friend, met a girl there that same night, did things with her that same night, which is just not, it's so out of character for me. But did that, and then I just realized I was like, I just avoided God and pushed him back so many times. So I knew I was supposed to. That was like the lowest part of my life where I realized I needed him. And I realize now with hindsight, like that was him trying to pull me away. And there's other scenarios of that's happened before, but this is the most clearest one I can think of where I was like, okay, I felt my absolute lowest. This was a responsibility of him showing himself in my life and being like, look, you're doing these horrible things that you're not supposed to be doing. This is not your purpose. This is not what you're supposed to be living your life for. And I was punished because of it, right? And I fell back into the bad old habits as soon as I got better and kept ignoring the signs. I was like, oh, I want to have a fun senior year. I want to do this and do this. And then I was just agnostic after that. I was like, there's something out there. Whatever I felt that in that time frame. And I didn't tell you, they found out what it was. It was mono. I'm like, okay, interesting. And this all would have been avoided if I wasn't sharing weed with my friend or the girls. I don't know what it was. Something like that caused it. But after that experience, I became very agnostic and a little more spiritual in just omnipresence. There's something out there, right? And I was like, okay, there's definitely a creator. And I was thinking about like the foundation I had when I was a child, and I was like, yeah, well, it's not God. I know that. And I'm trying to see what other religions there were out there to find what's my true purpose, what is the true calling, right? And then, luckily, later in 2024, at the end of 2024, I started this fitness online coaching business at the beginning of 2024, and I wasn't avoiding God. I just wasn't really thinking about it at all. And then I kept like, I like to learn a lot. I like to watch people that are in positions that I want to be at, right? And everyone kept mentioning God. I kept watching, oh, like, how do you become successful? Oh, you gotta have God in your life. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense, logical sense. You just have to do the certain things to get the outcome. I was like, it's like a math problem. If you want 4, you got to put 2 and 2 together to get 4. It's not like spiritual and blah, blah, blah. But then I realized slowly after seeing so much of that and listening to how other people operate in their thought processes, I was like, is God really that important? And I wasn't against it. I had a very open mind at this time, and I'm grateful. And I went to an event, like a mastermind kind of thing, in like September of 2024. It was like a business event, though. It wasn't anything religious at all. And the guy had a pastor speak as a guest speaker. And I talked to them after. I was like, should I be going to church? I've been feeling this like pulling to go to church, but I haven't made the step to it yet. Like, I literally started watching church services online on my phone because I was kind of too scared to go. I was like, are they going to accept me? Are they going to... I was scared for no reason. And I asked him about it, and I was like, what do you think? I explained him my entire story about everything, how my relationship with God has been up to this point. And he's like, dude, God's calling you. And I was like, wow. I was like, is this real, or is this just like some preacher just saying some shit? And I was like, no, wait, this is really what I need. I've been feeling this presence this entire time as I've been improving my life in all these other areas, getting in great shape, cutting the weed out, cutting the girls out, having a solid, secure relationship. I was like, I can see that. I can see that this is leading me towards this. So I started going to church, and it was actually the church I started going to was right next to my apartment building. Like, literally, the building right next to it, which is crazy. Meant to be there, right? And that's just crazy. And I realized I've had all the success because he was guiding me up to this point. And now I have him in my life, and I talk to him like daily. And I've learned the importance of having faith and trusting in the journey, because I always believed in destiny. I always believed in we're here to live our purpose, and everything you do is calculated and coordinated to play out the way it's supposed to. Like, the hard things are meant to teach you something, meant to be a lesson for you. But I didn't connect that with God until recently, and I'm like, holy, like, that's crazy. Like, working through those struggles. Everything we experience is through God. And then it's so much easier, instead of trying to rely on yourself, which is what I was trying to do before, of like, oh, well, I'm going to do my best and show up and put in all this work and effort, and then I'll get a good result. Instead, putting my confidence and faith in God, in a plan that he has for me, because I don't know what it is. I can try my best to estimate and guess how the next 10 years of my life are going to look, but I have no idea. It's all up to him. It's all up to the creator. And I found out that that is God. And that really changed everything for me, because then it's like, I don't have to worry about it as much anymore. I know that as long as I can show up every single day, do everything I can in my ability to serve a meaningful life, live like Jesus did, care for other people, love thy neighbor, treat myself with respect, don't be a glutton, don't indulge in lust, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and all that stuff, live like Jesus did, spread the word of God, then everything will be planned out. But I know when I do those bad things to push me away, that's separating me further from God, further from the life I'm meant to live, the plan that he has for me. And that's what really changed everything for me. I was like, wow, okay. So I'm still working through the struggles. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not a perfect journey. I'm not here to say, like I said in the beginning, I'm not here to be like, I'm a perfect person now. I'm going to become a preacher. I run a fitness page. This is what I do. I'm an online coach. I help people get in shape. But this is a very important part. And as I told you, like, I had this down and before I had this down, I had the fitness stuff down. I was very locked in, very in shape. I think back then I was a lot more open to the idea of God and being spiritual, and that's why I had so much success. But then, as you saw, it slowly started to fade away because I didn't have God in my life. I went back to the weed, went back to the girls, and it led me off the path of everything. Like my ex at the time, being religious, turning to God, me breaking up with her, making that decision because honestly, it was so dumb. The reason I broke up, I was like, I feel stagnant in our relationship. I feel like we're not developing or growing any further. Why not take responsibility and be like, how can we fix this? She probably would have been willing to do that, but I was just like bored, and honestly, I wanted to see other girls. That was one of the biggest reasons too, which is unfortunate. But I've learned from that I was turning away from God. That's one of the other many times. But it's not a perfect journey, and that's just the thing about like trust in God, trust in the path, and you learn. As long as you're making constant improvements. I mean, the Bible says as long as you declare that you trust Jesus and you believe that he rose from the dead, you are saved. For me, it's also like as long as I follow in him and I know I'm giving my best effort every single day, I know the path that I'm meant to live will play out. And it will for you too. That's the thing. That's why I made this video. Is like, if you are open and willing to change your life for the better, I promise you, the big part of it is God. Like, I wish I had a video like this back then to just show me like, I was a skeptic, dude. I was a big time skeptic. I didn't believe this stuff. I was like, okay, maybe it's real. There's some creator, but is it God? Is it Christianity? Is it living through Christ, Jesus Christ? Actually, I wouldn't even consider myself a Christian or like Christianity. I just want to live like Jesus, because Christianity has had a lot of bad things, and people have justified a lot of bad actions under the name of Christianity. So I don't really want to proclaim that, but it's more just like reading the Bible and living through Jesus Christ, living like he did. So if this is speaking to you and you feel like there's some sort of meaning behind this, and you're kind of meant to see this video, you're meant to see this, it popped up on your recommended page for a reason. Think about where you're at spiritually in your own relationship with God. Is it everything you know it could be? If you're already like super Christian and religious and you watch this video, you're like, yeah, I love this. I agree with all of this. How can you level up your relationship with him and make it even better? Because us humans, like everyone's imperfect. No one is perfect, right? What can you improve? I just want to challenge you to do better, and then every single area of your life will get better. Because it's the same thing happened for me. I used to be a skeptic, used to not believe in it, but everything gets better when you actually trust in the Lord. So if you enjoyed this video, this is a little bit different than my usual videos. I usually talk about fitness and getting in shape, but this is a big part of it too. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.